Right. Well, I'm actually a product of what I do. We been in sports ministry for a long time, but really it was my coach back in high school. He said, "Connor, why don't you go to an FCA camp?" And I'm like, "What's FCA? Future Coaches of America?" He said, "Yeah, be good for you." And he brought me to camp. And it was at camp that he, not only there was great testimonies, but he knew it was better, more than just testimonies. It was the gospel. And he sat me down, Romans 6:23, "For the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life through Christ our Lord." And he said, "Have you accepted the free gift?" And of course I wanted him off my back, so I lied and I said, "Yeah." But the hound of heaven was attacking, and that was probably the most miserable. You're going to camp for a great time. I had a miserable time because I had a raging war in my soul. And finally, I just gave in, probably the most reluctant athlete in America. I said, "Yes, Lord, I will be a Christian." And I remember coming back to Coach Rex in practice the next week and said, I lied and I'm a Christian now. He goes, "Good." And he just yelled at me more. That was all he did. He never really brought it up again. And so I've been a product of sports ministry ever since. So it's been a lot of fun.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another OVRadio special. I am still at REACHgathering 2021 and I am here with the legendary Steve Connor. I don't even know if we can give your full bio within the amount of time that we've got to record, because you've been, you're a legend within NCAA football, you're a former NFL player, you have an honorary doctorate, you've been an international missionary, you've been an international coach, and you've written like a gazillion. I'm not sure. Have you beat Greg as far as the total number of books written?
I don't know how many, Greg. Probably not. But I've written 11, and I've got an open source that makes 12.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure you at least are tied with him, if not having beat him at this point. And you guys are still both writing, so I think this is going to be just a competition to the end here as far as who's going to end with the most published works.
Well, Andrew, the great thing, though, is that Greg is going to publish, he published our last book, and he's going to publish
That's true.
Book.
So I guess that means Greg's going to stay on top because his name's on all of yours now, too. So that doesn't really, I don't know if that counts or not, but we'll go with it since I claim all the podcasts my name's on. So right now, though, you're focused in on your latest book title, but it's more than just a book because it really has become the center of a new ministry for you, and that's Rugged Discipleship. So tell everybody a little bit about what Rugged Discipleship actually is.
I was asked to write more of my own story, and I said, "Yeah, great, write my own story, and I'll sell 50 books to relatives and have 2,000 books in my garage," because I'm not a legendary college guy, I'm not a legendary pro, but there was one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to write a book on discipleship because I've had the greatest discipleship experience in the world with some of the men and women that have discipled me. So I wanted to write about them and then take a principle from each of the people and then some of the mistakes and victories I've had discipling others. So that's how the book got started. And it was at a CSRM conference, not the REACHgathering, but before, as REACH has evolved.
The summits, yeah.
Yeah, I met a guy called Oye. He was a Nigerian linebacker out of Washington, and we spent some time together. And we were talking, and he was thinking about going into sports ministry, but he said, "Man, where are they now?" Because they weren't connected to the church. And of course, without the church, the parachurch is never going to make it. And if we don't connect them, the sport will not be there that long in their lives, but the church will always be there for them. I was talking to him, and I asked him, I said, where are they now? And he goes, I don't know. He said, I don't want to do a ministry where they just disappear. And I kept asking him and probing, and he got a little negative about the church. It's easy to be sophomoric about the church and bash on it, but it is the bride of Christ. So I finally said, "What's the answer?" He said, "We need rugged Christians." I said, "How do we get rugged Christians?" And he said, "Rugged Discipleship." And that was about 11 years ago, and that stuck in my head. I said, that is a great title for a book, and we need more rugged disciples.
And now were you thinking we just need to find somebody to write it? Or was this when you suddenly were like, okay, I guess I'm going to go for book number 12?
I think that was the time that I said I was going to go for my next book, and that was it. And I was talking to a couple of publishers that were on the hook, but Greg Linville did a great job. And I'm so glad. He pushed me in a couple directions that I wouldn't have, and those have become my favorite part of the book now too. And so it was the funnest book I have ever written, and the collaboration was great, and I learned a ton.
Awesome. So the book's been written, but this is more than just, okay, I've written another book, because this is actually a very big piece to what you've already been doing in your career. It's a big piece to what, CSRM has been preaching for, however long we've been around, since we can't ever agree on that. Shout out to Tim Adcox, who's walking by, who was one of the people that founded it, that can't remember what year it was we actually founded it. Yeah, he just said, I have no idea. This idea of discipleship, and especially evangelistic disciple making, is the basis for everything we do. But you're going a little bit further and saying it's not just good enough to say, okay, we're out making disciples, but we need this idea of rugged discipleship. Define that a little bit. What is this idea of ruggedness within discipleship?
Angela Duckworth was on a oh gosh, I forgot what it's called. What are those? It's technology and well, anyhow, she did a talk. A TED
TED Talk. Yeah, TED Talks. There we go.
She did a TED Talk, and it was seminal. And in it, she recognized that some of her students, she was a scientist but also a teacher, she recognized that some of them could endure and last and be strong, but she couldn't identify it. And some of them could last out and work hard. And it didn't have to do with whether their parents were wealthy, whether they were pretty, whether they were strong, but they had something to them, which she called grit. And I like the term rugged, but it's really the same thing. It's the enduring, long-term Christianity. I don't ever want to say about some of the kids that have come to Christ, where are they now?
Right, and that's really the lasting effect. Greg talks about it in terms of your spiritual descendants of this long-term Christianity, this long-term discipleship, the reproducing reproducers aspect. But going back even to what Oye said, this idea of international ministry, just where are they now? Because we have these missionaries that go in, they do all this stuff, and they leave, and then where are they? PF talks about it in Life of the Shoe a lot, but you also spent a good amount of time overseas, specifically in the UK. What is it about missiology that you found that needed to be shifted a little bit, at least for you personally, to be able to prevent this where are they now setting aspect, whatever you want to call it, and to kind of implement more of this rugged discipleship, this grit, whatever name we want to put on it, depending on which book you're writing. What was it that you found that you personally had to change first?
Well, the first thing was the church. I was a parachurch guy. I'd worked for FCA for a few years, and I realized that when their sport was over, they didn't connect, and they had a great time with their peers, but with their peers, they're not going to be there. And most people in high-profile sport, when they're done, are lonely. Mm-hmm. Because in their neighborhood, they're not going to find many NFL players, many pros, or many college. And so you don't have that like-mindedness, and you go to church, and then there's some sweet old ladies, and you just don't connect. And so helping the church to reach and to speak the language of sport was probably the biggest thing I had to do and learn, because I wanted long-term. I wanted that fruit that would come and last. I wanted seed that was in good soil, not just growing in weeds.
So what were the first steps in terms of actually developing that kind of fruit in somebody? What was it that you found was the first step to it? Because we talked the 5 B's, and really you already focused in on the belonging side of it, with the fact that we need, people needing to be like-minded, everything. I mean, that's part of what REACHgathering is all about, is like-minded people coming together for a while and being able to talk shop or not. And so what was that first step for you in terms of, okay, if we're going to do this, and if we're saying the church needs to learn how to do this, what's that first step actually look like? What do we have to do to get to that point?
Well, for me, the evolution of being more evangelistic discipleship mix of the two has been, we started internationally in 1990. There was no books on sports ministry. There was no papers. You just grabbed things printed off. And I remember inviting Greg Linville to one of our camps. It was one of the first camps ever in the United Kingdom that was a sports Christian camp. And he came, we became friends. And he was a thinker, and he really, really pushed me in some ways. And then we started gravitating together at different gatherings. And so we started to write, we started to think, and we started to look at Scripture and see if we could bring it tighter. And so that was probably the first step. So it was a very slow evolution from the point of no books at all to look what we have now.
So we need a second table, and I need a much bigger SUV to bring them down from now on. I'm not bitter. So we, now I lost it. Where were we going with that? Oh, yeah, the books. This is part of why we joke about the fact that everybody here has stolen something from Roger Oswald.
Oh, absolutely.
Is because Roger was the one making all the printouts, and then you and Greg came along and said, "Well, why don't we actually publish these things and make money off of Roger?"
Roger came over to the UK, came and stayed at our house in maybe 1991. And yeah, I remember making copies of things, and we still laugh at this little church that we went to on a Saturday for an outreach. And so, yeah.
Yeah, so for those of you that are actually interested in actually reading all of this stuff, whether it's Rugged Discipleship, whether he's also got, at least here at Reach, he's got the sports outreach manuals. He's written a devotional sporting guide for eternity. I've lost track of all the other ones. Where can people go to find all of your work? Everybody knows where to find Greg's. Where can we find yours?
Well, let's see. I think one of them, I guess, only one that you guys are selling is the Rugged Discipleship, because you guys.
I think Sporting Guide for Eternity is still up, and I'm thinking we're probably getting ready to put Sports Outreach up. But I think we were out of stock.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, Amazon's probably the best place there, and you can get everything you want. And Rugged Discipleship is Audible, which is great. I've got this great guy from Hollywood that did the voiceover. So now when I read it, I hear his voice, not mine. And so it's amazing. He is wonderful, too. His name is Bruce Barker. You'll have heard him all over America. But the cool thing is it's my brother-in-law. So,
there you go.
So we did it for
You
free.
got a little bit of an in, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazon, you can go to rugged-discipleship.org, and then rugged-discipleship.org, or sportsoutreach.com.
Awesome. So, Steve, thanks for being here. Thanks for waiting on me with my dead alarm.
No problem.
When we're recording this, it's the last interview, but we'll have one more interview coming up for all of you on Ministry Misfits. Those of you on CSRM, I believe Steve was the last one that we've released, so there should be 4 total if I actually am counting right, but there's no guarantee that that's the case. So we are about to head into the Wrestling at Reach session here at REACHgathering 2021. So we will see you all next week for the next episode. Oh, yes, and he wants to shout out White River Coffee Company. They're in, where's that, Missouri?
Rockaway, Missouri.
Rockaway Beach, Missouri. So
Dean, we love you.
Go get some coffee if you're out in Rockaway Beach, Missouri. We'll see you all later. This episode of the Ministry Misfits podcast and this awesome shirt are brought to you by Courageous Clothing Company. Courageous Clothing Company is a Christian family-owned business that specializes in custom designs that they create, as well as bulk screen printing of your custom designs as well. When you buy from Courageous Clothing Company, you're not just buying an awesome shirt, you also are helping spread the gospel across the world through the missions that they support, such as this here with Ministry Misfits. as well as with their own designs that have Christian-themed messages, sharing the gospel in an awesome and relevant way, or as we say within CSRM and Minister Misfits, strategically relevant evangelism. Check out their entire line at courageousclothingcompany.com.
Righteousness is justice.
Righteousness is peace.
To be righteous is to be Christ-like.
To seek righteousness is to seek God's plan for all of us.
Diversity is found in righteousness.
Unity is found in righteousness.
Rest is found in righteousness.
Righteousness is the goal.
If we aim for righteousness, we have everything.
Righteousness over everything.
Righteousness over everything.
Righteousness over everything.
Righteousness over everything.
But how?
It's not easy.
It's not simple.
It's not quick.
But it is possible.
It sounds absurd.
We are absurd.
This is absurd.
Hey everybody, this is Andrew Fouts. We are doing a little bit of an OVRadio special here with Faith and Fitness Magazine. We are here live at REACHgathering 2021 in Ridgecrest, North Carolina, the Ridgecrest Conference Center. We've been here, 3 days? 2 days? 2 days, something like that. And we are talking today with Brad Bloom of Faith and Fitness Magazine. We're going to talk a little bit about the magazine. We're going to talk a little bit about a conference you guys have coming up. And then we also want to talk a little bit about something that, you guys focus in a lot on, something that CSRM, Overwhelming Victory, the Misfits especially, like to focus in on as far as changing the culture of the church as far as how it approaches the mission of what it's doing. So first of all, give us a little background. Faith and Fitness Magazine. What do we got here? Is this a paper magazine, online? What are you guys doing here?
Yeah, it's a paper magazine that you pay $50 a year. No, I'm joking. It's all online. It's always been online ever since 2003. Actually, I had a board member, and I was telling him my grand vision for doing a print version of the magazine. He worked at CCM Magazine. If you're
nice.
familiar with that.
Yeah.
And he was selling advertising, and he said, "Brad, whatever you do, don't do print." And I said, "Oh, come on, I can just see it on stair steppers and treadmills, people reading. Don't do it," he said. And I didn't, and it turned out to be a very smart decision because, as you know, magazine after magazine, newspaper after newspaper, they're all going to digital only.
He saw the writing on the wall way in advance there. So you guys produce this online magazine. You guys obviously are focusing on fitness and faith.
Yeah.
So how do you guys go about your integration of the two? Because we know, obviously we're here at the conference. We know there's a lot of different ways of doing it. Debbie Brown, Tim Cho have been doing some different stuff here. We've had both of them on the CSRM podcast multiple times talking about it. But what is it that you guys focus on as far as integrating all of this together?
Sure, and let me just say that we very specifically indicate the Christian faith. I actually did a conference years ago in Chicago, and provided the web address, everything. You'd think people, before they'd show up to a session at a secular
would
fitness
check into
conference,
what
would
they're
check
actually
it out.
going to.
And a woman walked up to me afterwards, and she said, "You could have said it was the Christian faith." So, but and what we tell people, in the broader circles that we're in is, hey, it's not that we're opposed to other people of faith or those who don't have any faith at all, but our area of expertise, our area of focus is on the Christian faith,
Right.
and it needs that. So that's what we do. We help people make connections between a fit, active lifestyle and the Christian faith. And we essentially have two audiences: those who are Christian, that are like, oh yeah, and every time we're out in public, people are like, oh, I knew there had to be something like this. It just makes total sense. But then we also our other audience is those people that aren't Christian.
Right.
They're looking, and it makes a lot of sense as we design the content to really keep that audience in mind, because we want this to be something that's attractive to them, something that engages them, something that gives them an opportunity to go, I've heard about Christianity, but this is a really fresh and engaging perspective on what Christianity is all about. So.
Right, and that really kind of leads into what we were planning to talk about in a little bit more detail here, of this idea of transitioning people that are not quite sure what they think about Christianity into actually wanting to at least engage with it a little bit, and how to do it. And especially we're talking, sports rec and fitness is what we talk about here within Reach and CSRM. You focus in specifically into the fitness side. But this idea of what it should the actual goal be of when we're doing all of this. What you were talking about there, we use the term strategic relevance. All of our OVRadio people should know what strategic relevance is. We talk about it all the time on all the different shows. But this is another area of where you're trying to use the fitness to be what's relevant to get them to start talking. But what is it that you are, what you guys are doing, everything that you guys are saying, this should be the ultimate goal of what we are doing within fitness and rec and sports ministry?
Sure, and let me just say, as I talk about that as I work with different ministries all around the country, some are churches, some are private entrepreneurships, businesses, etc., that every one of those organizations has a different goal.
Right.
And so I'm not, when I come to connect with them, it's not like I'm there to say, okay, and let's be honest, there's some churches, they have a sports and recreation ministry, a fitness ministry, exclusively for their members.
Right,
Their vision
right.
of what God has given them is to do something that nurtures the people within their facility. But for others that are looking to be outreach minded and they want to really reach out to their community, there's a lot to consider on just how to really effectively do that, and it's not difficult.
And that's so when we're talking, we'll kind of clarify the question. But when we're talking about the ultimate vision, we're talking about the ultimate goal and vision of what a biblically, the biblical idea of a church mission, what God's command for Christians in the church to do, is much more. We're not necessarily telling people go and change your mission and vision statement right now for your individual ministry. We're talking more broad of what should the church actually be doing when we're talking about all this stuff. What is our goal in building these relationships?
And I will say, what we talk a lot about in the magazine and definitely in the conference that we'll be having again this year is pray. You've got to get that direction from God. You can put up all the research, you can do all the theological conversations, but at the end of the day, if you're not getting the word from God as to what your ministry should be doing, you're going to miss the mark, even if it is theologically spot on.
Right, and that's kind of where we can start breaking this down a little bit. Is the first thing we're talking about here. We haven't even gotten into what we're saying the mission should be. if God is not the one that's given this out, don't take our word for it. You've got to make sure you've prayed through this at this fit. We talk about this all the time when we talk fourfold rubric of strategic relevance, but that strategic relevance still has to fit the mission and vision of the church and the ministries and everything like that. But once you move past that, and I guess this is really the question that we're asking is the goal to get people into your pews and your sanctuary, or is your goal to be just being with people and developing that relationship? And so this is kind of where, you and I were talking, you wanted to kind of dive into this a little bit, and this is what your conference is going to be diving into a lot. You guys dive into this magazine is, what's the difference between the idea of when we talk about our disconnects within sports outreach from the streets? Do we want to get them into the gym? Do we want to get them into the pews? Where should we actually be starting this whole process?
Absolutely, yeah. And what we as Christians have to really, and it's a tough pill to bite, to take, because there's a lot of churches out there. They've invested money in their buildings, their property. They pay all this money to maintain, to have staff. And so it's tough to not say, hey, we want to get them here, because their investment is so significant. But the real mentality that we have to have as Christians is where we want to get them, isn't in the gym, it's not in the sanctuary, it's into fellowship with Christ and with each other. And that can look so many different ways. And I think what we really encourage our audience, particularly the professionals that we work with, is at the end of the day, God wants the people to know Him. It doesn't matter all the infrastructures that we've created.
Right.
God wants that relationship. And so all of our ministry needs to be directed towards not figuring out how we're going to get them into another program, to use a certain piece of exercise equipment, to participate in a church program, a Sunday service or whatever, a small group, but instead to say, how can we bring these people, help them to see that what they're looking for is relationship with Jesus Christ. And once that happens, then all of those other things will be added to that.
Right. And this is where, we go into our 5 B's, the first B being belong before anything else, and the desire for community, the need for community, why we do things like the Reach Gathering, which is not a conference because that has been deemed a cuss word this year, thanks to Bob Schindler. But part of what he even talks about is this idea of gathering together to fulfill that need for community, especially over the past 2 years with everything going on, this need to be together.
Yeah.
And so, what we're saying here is this idea of we need to change the mindset of how many people are in my league as numbers to how many people are coming and fellowshipping together, whether that's in the gym fitness-wise, whether that's on a basketball team, whatever that may look like, whether that is Sunday morning in our pews, all those different things. But the first thing we've got to do is strip away the idea of looking at it from a number perspective and start looking at it more of a community mindset and perspective. So for you guys within Faith and Fitness magazine, how is it that you guys try to encourage local churches, whether it's congregations that are big or small? How do you encourage these congregations to kind of change that mindset a little bit to focus in on let's build a community together before we start worrying about our attendance numbers?
Sure. So one of the big things that we do, we provide support to churches. And one of practically the first things we discuss is, let's survey not only your team but your community and find out what the needs are. In other words, before we start to say we're going to do this, that, and the other, here's how much money we're going to spend, here's who we're going to hire, the facility, the equipment, let's ask the questions. And I was just in a session yesterday, and we were talking about the importance of communication. And we then brought that conversation around to that communication has a whole other side to it, and it's listening.
Right.
And you just can't do enough listening. But the more you do, the more you start to discover what the real true needs are and what people are wrestling with. And so this really becomes every bit of what the church is all about, and exactly what we rarely envision. And that is, we are there as Christ's ambassadors to listen to people and to support them. And here's the deal. There's article after article, news report after news report, on and on, about how that need is only increasing in today's culture.
Right.
The more people feel socially disconnected, frustrated, angry, the more they're going, I need something real. And the church is the one place, the Christian community is the one group of people that can truly deliver that passionate love, and people will go, wow. And I tell fitness owners, business owners that come to our conference, I say, there's dozens, hundreds of gyms in your city, if it's a big city.
Right.
These people have tried a lot of them. When they come to your church fitness facility, that should be the one where they go, wow, I tried so many others. This was the one that truly met all of my needs, not just helping me to lose weight, to look better, to feel better, to live longer, all of those physical benefits, but then they dialed into stuff that I didn't even realize I had going on, or I certainly didn't want to admit to.
Right.
And they started giving me solutions that could really transform my life. And when you get that, you don't have to worry about business. Business will be full and overflowing, as the Bible verse says, pressed down, shaken, more than you could possibly imagine.
And that's much more of the holistic approach to fitness, which is a lot of what we talk, again, that's the whole point of these conference gatherings. The whole point of these is the idea of, we want to start to promote this holistic approach to the individual. So we're going to care about them from their physical standpoint, the fitness stuff. We're going to care about them from their mental standpoint. We've got, within our network, we've got Call the Mentor guys. We got the McDowell family that, do focus much more on the mental and the stuff we do within ministry, Misfits, trying to kind of wrap ourselves around that. And then, of course, we're also dealing with the theology and the spiritual side of it, and being able to actually mix all of it together to provide, the absolute best for the people. We talked about this a couple weeks ago in our Tuesday talk, talking about video games as ministries, the fact that, there's this large group of people that are just looking for a community that want to have fun together, that want to play together. And so if we are able to provide them with a place where not only are they going to be able to do that, but they're going to be able to do that in a place where it's safe. They're going to be able to do that in a place where they're not going to have to worry about language all the time. It's the same thing we talked about when we talked about our basketball leagues, our volleyball leagues, our soccer leagues. And now we're saying, we need to be doing this in all areas, include whether it's fitness, whether it's sports, whether it's rec. These are the places that people are going to actually come for community.
Yeah, and I really want to encourage, I want to provide a word of encouragement and maybe clarification, if you will, to the CSRM community, this gathering of fitness people, because so many times when they hear the word fitness, they think of the weight room.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And of course, yeah, it is that. But we really, as we're talking with the sports and recreation people, really start to suggest that can be hiking on a trail, that can be out gardening, that can be doing frisbee. There's so many different ways, and it all starts to dial into, quite honestly, more of the recreational side of things than what people envision fitness to be. And obviously people do that because they want to be active, they want to be healthy, they want to breathe deep the air, all of that stuff. And so what I encourage the CSRM people to think about is this concept of doing fitness ministry isn't really all that foreign. In fact, it's far more connected to what they're doing than they may imagine.
And a lot of you are already doing it, and that's part of what, if people haven't been able to connect the dots a little bit, part of why we wanted to, Dr. Linville and I wanted to have Brad on, is the fact that, he just laid out a plan for changing the culture, changing the mindset of how we're doing all of this. Everything he laid out is the stuff we talk about all the time as far as strategic relevance, whether it's effective or not, based off of the way that we're changing people, the holistic side of things. We went through the 5 Bs, all of this stuff, but in a different way that's presented a little bit differently and a little bit more practically, with some of the academic side of things stripped away and just focus in on the individual themselves. And so, this is part of why we wanted to also encourage you guys to check out Faith and Fitness Magazine. And then you also have a conference coming up here in October, right? San Antonio?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just say, again, to all of the churches out there, Faith and Fitness Magazine has always been totally online.
Online, yes.
And totally free.
Yes.
So we would, and we try to do it with no denominational perspectives. So the idea is, we hope that we're producing a resource that these church leaders can look at and go, wow, this is just gravy for us to add to what we're doing. This is going to be additional nourishment and something that they can encourage. We provide graphics to churches so that they can, every time we have a new issue, get it out there that, hey, there's more new content for people to dig into. But yes, we do have a conference coming up October 27 and 28 at the San Antonio Convention Center in beautiful downtown San Antonio, Texas. We're looking forward to being able to do that. We didn't have a conference last year, but this is the 5th year that we've been doing this, or 6th year, I guess. And we're always co-located with the Athletic Business Show, which is a major national fitness trade show. That's been a real blessing from God, because they provide space for us within a convention center type of environment, which would be, quite honestly, impossible to do otherwise.
Right.
But it has a secondary beauty to it, and that is, our conference is very specifically Christian fitness. But then all of our attendees get to go out into the expo hall of this larger conference that's secular.
And interact, and
it's not that they're godless people, but most of the people that find us are like, wow, didn't even know something like that existed.
Right.
And when they do, then they're ready to pay attention. And it's been really beautiful. At our booth in the expo hall, we have opportunity to, talk to people totally out in the front about faith. We get the opportunity to pray with them as, they have need. And it's just a really neat opportunity to connect with the broader public. But the conference itself, if you're wondering whether you should go to it, who should go to it, we certainly encourage, any church leader that particularly is not doing a fitness ministry to come, so that you can start to discover what that really looks like. But if you're doing a sports ministry or you have a fitness ministry, you're going to find that this is going to be a good conference to go to. If you've got a person in your church that is fitness minded, maybe they've got their own fitness business, or they're a personal trainer or a nutritionist, encourage those people to come. Additionally, we encourage people that are life coaches, family counselors, chiropractors, healthcare providers, all of these people, because this is going to be so on target with their existing vocations. A big thing that we encourage at the conference is for professionals to really start to think about how they're going to have their small team, as sports and recreation ministries do, but to then visualize all of the different ancillary team members.
Right.
The marriage counselors at church, the educators, all of this,
the outreach,
that they can tap into. So, but it's a good time of fellowship, extremely good time of networking. The people that come to our conference, the biggest feedback that I get from them is that they when they left the conference, they were able to connect ongoing with other people doing this. And that was huge on so many different levels.
Right. And that's what, those of you that are interested in going, you can come back to this video a little bit later. Those of you that were watching live, those of you that are listening, it will be in the show notes once we actually get this downloaded and uploaded to all the Anchor platforms and everything like that. We will make sure that these are linked to Ministry Misfits, folks. Once I actually remember to get on there and put up all the resources, we'll make sure that it's linked up there as well for those that are interested in going there. So you'll be able to find all of that. You guys can also check out Faith and Fitness Magazine's Facebook page. You'll be able to get all the information there as well, I'm sure, as well as hopefully this video is working and you'll be able to rewatch this lovely interview there as well. So, Brad, thank you for doing this. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure talking with you today.
Thank
you.
It's been good. You liking the gathering so far?
Always, yeah. This is, I think, my third, maybe fourth time to come to Reach, and it's always a good time. Great time to, again, the networking, the fellowship is just over the top at these events. So it's really good.
Right. So again, those of you that find all of this interesting, in addition to the Faith and Fitness Conference, you guys can still, this is the kind of stuff we talk about here at Reach pretty much every year. So be sure to check out, register to come with us next year to next year's Reach Gathering, which I believe is back in the spring. I don't know if we've got the exact dates yet for that. But in addition to that, Ministry Misfits folks, if you guys want to join us, the next conference that I will be at is the Absurd Conference there in Canton in October. We will be back live here for OVRadio this afternoon, probably around 5 o'clock, 5:15, talking with CSRM board member Brad Winter about how to take your local church ministry and incorporate with some professional athletics as well. So, Brad, thanks for coming on.
Andrew, thank you.
Yes, those of you also that are regular OVRadio listeners, be prepared to see an interview with Don Wyrick, similarly about some professional sports activities within the church, coming out either this evening or tomorrow, depending on when I actually have time to actually, finish it. So, we will talk to the rest of you all later. Again, we'll be back live here on Overwhelming Victory, on CSRM, and on Ministry Misfits here around 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern. So thank you all for joining us. Brad, thanks for being here, and we will see you all here in a little bit.
The Ministry Misfits podcast is a production of Overwhelming Victory Flicks, Overwhelming Victory Radio, and Ministry Misfits Media. Dr. Greg Linville and Andrew Fouts are our executive producers, and Brandon Simmons is associate producer. Our music is provided by Morning Light Music and is titled Rain. If you would like to get in touch with us, you can email us at ministrymisfitmedia@gmail.com or by following @ministrymisfit on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can support Ministry Misfits at anchor.fm/Ministry Misfits or for FO1C3 credit by going to csrm.org/donate and selecting Andrew Fouts in the campaign menu. To learn more about Overwhelming Victory or to listen to our sister podcast, visit overwhelmingvictory.org.